Rent in Calgary is reaching heights never before seen. The Canada Housing and Mortgage Corporation is warning that rates could soon be comparable to Toronto, as prices increase faster here than anywhere else in the country. The situation is dire across the province. Rents are being driven up in Red Deer, and Edmonton is experiencing the lowest vacancy rate seen in decades. The Alberta advantage of a low cost of living is disappearing before our very eyes. So, you'll understand my confusion that the province continues to call on people from outside the province and outside the country to move here. Alberta announced this week that it is offering a new pathway to permanent residency for foreigners who want to police in Alberta. That's a far cry from a Made in Alberta provincial police program that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith said she supported just 2 years ago during the United Conservative Party leadership race. And at the same time, where are these people going to live? And at what cost to them and all of us? When it comes to immigration, my criticism of the provincial Conservatives is increasingly the same as it is of the Trudeau Liberals. In a place as wealthy as Canada, and certainly energy-rich Alberta, there's no reason why citizens shouldn't have as good a quality of life, if not better, than what they grew up with. Government policy is making that impossible. So let's hit the brakes on immigration and take care of our people first. I'm Rachel Parker, and this is the Alberta Roundup. Okay, everyone, and this is probably the last time I'm going to say it just for anybody who missed it in previous episodes. Yes, I have changed my name. My name will now be appearing as Rachel Parker. If you want to know my explanation for that, you're going to have to go back to my last episode and get the full breakdown. But for now, taking a look at this first story here from my colleague at True North, foreigners interested in becoming police officers will soon be able to immigrate to Alberta and become permanent residents. Alberta's provincial nominee program has introduced a new pathway to permanent residency for foreign nationals aspiring to work as police officers in the province. This initiative aims to bolster Alberta's law enforcement capabilities and address recruitment challenges. An update on the program's website reads, quote, "We are creating a new Alberta Advantage immigration program pathway for law enforcement to help Alberta's police services address crime and meet their recruitment objectives for public protection. The eligible occupations for this pathway include commissioned and non-commissioned police officers, police investigators, and other specialized law enforcement occupations. The express entry system ranks immigration applications from skilled workers by score. Alberta then nominates the most qualified candidates to apply for permanent residence with the federal government." The update from the province reads, quote, "Keeping Albertans safe is a top priority of this government, and we are committed to protecting the safety and security of Albertans by supporting Alberta Police Service's international police officer recruitment." So I find it baffling that there is allegedly such a shortage of Albertans who are willing to apply that they are now needing to ask foreigners to come over and to police Alberta residents. I think that, first of all, I find it hard to believe. And second of all, if that is actually a problem, maybe there just needs to be a situation where there's more education on what types of jobs are available within police work and actually how coveted these jobs are because of all the valuable aspects of them, like a great salary. I think a lot of us Conservatives in Alberta thought we were going to see the province move into a direction of an Alberta provincial police program because the Premier said she supported a program when she was running for the United Conservative Party leadership race, which she obviously won a few years ago. And we've seen no funding committed to that. And I think that most of us thought, we are going to be having an Alberta-based policing program. We're tired of the federal government coming in and being in charge of our policing. And I think we're really seeing the opposite of that here, where we're not looking at an Alberta-based solution. So this program really doesn't sit right with me, especially in our inflationary crisis when these highly paid and sought after jobs are very coveted. As I said, if there is a situation where they're simply not receiving enough applicants, I think that's something that we should really be starting earlier on in the school system and at colleges, where we're educating students, in high school and saying, this is a great job opportunity for you. Moving into our next story here, supporters flocked to see federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre at the Calgary Stampede last weekend, where he gave a speech portraying a very optimistic vision for Canada's future. For those of you who don't know, Poilievre actually grew up in Shaughnessy, that's a neighborhood in South Calgary, and he said that some of his best memories are from the city. During the speech, he talked about how Canada is broken. He said Canadians feel that they are a long way from home, and he pointed to the high cost of housing, food prices, and the rising number of Canadians accessing food banks. He also committed to, and I thought this one was particularly interesting because we know the crisis of this unfolding in Toronto. I don't think it's nearly as prevalent in Alberta, but let me know if you guys think I'm wrong on this. But he was talking about increasing inspections of shipping containers, which we know are being used to ship stolen cars to outside of the country and to the Middle East. He also promised to implement a tax reform commission with a 3-point mandate to fine tax cut for Canadian-made products, cut administrative and compliance burdens, and lower taxes for the working class. Poilievre also told supporters that a Conservative government would stop overspending and money printing, axe the carbon tax, and champion Canadian energy. Here's what else he had to say. Take a listen.
The reality is that the foundation of any free market economy, of all prosperity, of all real economic justice is sound money. And that's why common sense Conservatives will end the money printing. We will get our central bank back to the core mission of low inflation.
So you can hear the applause there. That wasn't even at the end of his speech. That was midway through it. It paints quite the contrasting picture to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who, as you know, did not attend the Calgary Stampede this year. We covered that on last week's show extensively. If you haven't seen that, you're going to want to go back and take a listen. Still, Trudeau was a topic of conversation at the Stampede this year, just maybe not in the way that he would have liked. Take a look at this next clip. I'm sure you guys can use your imagination to figure out what was being said there. We obviously had to bleep a fair number of the words as this is a kid-friendly show. Okay, moving into our next story here. A new Edmonton bylaw bans businesses from selling bear spray to minors after a report from the city's police force called it one of the most common improvised weapons used on the street. The bylaw passed with unanimous support from City Council on Wednesday. It will include a new licensing regime and requirements to track transaction records to ensure the new regulations. Adults will also be responsible for keeping purchased canisters out of reach from minors. Businesses caught selling bear spray to minors will receive a $2,000 fine for a first offense, and businesses that fail to record transactions or provide adequate product security and a city-approved purchaser guide will receive a $1,000 fine for a first offense. All fines will double on second offenses. This is some next-level socialism that we're seeing, that businesses are being required to implement a new licensing regime and to track transaction records to ensure that they know where their bear spray is going. This is going to come at a massive cost to businesses, and I'm sure we'll see a situation where businesses are just going to say, too difficult for us to sell bear spray, we're just not going to carry it in stores anymore. That's typically what we see when governments begin to overstep and businesses are forced to jump through hoops to sell a product. They just say, you know what, it's easier for me just not to sell this. So if you live in Edmonton, make sure to grab some bear spray the next time you're in Calgary, because it might become either more expensive because businesses are going to have to pass the costs of all these new regulations onto you, the consumer, so they can make sure that they have time and that they can pay employees to be tracking all these things, or you're just simply not going to be able to buy it in Edmonton for very much longer. So make sure you grab a can of that next time you're in Calgary. This is such a short-sighted solution because we know that kids are just going to turn to something else. Maybe knives, soon we're going to have a knife registry in Edmonton. If you own a knife, you're going to have to register that knife, the make, the model, the size, the cost. If you want to buy a knife in Edmonton, the business is going to have to track who they sold it to. Soon there's going to be no knives in Edmonton. I don't know. They're going to continue to regulate things that cause issues. You're going to have to regulate everything. Let's not try to police our way out of every minor problem that we see in society, and let's actually take a look at addressing root causes. Let's take a look at what the Edmonton mayor had to say about it, Emery. So he said that the bylaw is another tool to help officers confiscate bear spray. Ward Meaty Councillor Ashley Salvador supported the bylaw. Here's what she had to say about it.
To see some additional steps being taken, some stronger measures through our business licensing bylaw. I think it's a good move, and I think community will be pleased to see that the city is taking it seriously.
And according to the Edmonton Police Service, the city saw over 22,000 bear spray incidents between 2015 and 2023, with 40% deemed violent. And for those of you who haven't experienced or aren't aware of the impacts of bear spray, it causes severe burning and irritation to the skin, eyes, nose, and throat. And it contains the same active ingredient as found in chili peppers. Okay, and finally, moving into our controversy of the week, the Alberta government will permit selective grizzly bear hunts should they meet a certain criteria, raising concerns from environmentalists who worry about the impacts on a threatened species. Forestry and Parks Minister Todd Loewen made the change as part of a ministerial order. Under the order, the minister may issue what the province refers to as a grizzly bear management authorization for the purpose of hunting a grizzly. Lowen told CBC News, quote, "This is an overall management strategy for problem wildlife in particular, to make sure that we can respond to rural Albertans, both their concerns of safety, but also loss of crop and loss of livestock." Lowen said it's a wildlife management tool that will create a pool of Alberta residents to act as public wildlife management responders. Here's what else he had to say.
It definitely takes time for officers to deal with this. And we use Albertans to manage other populations of animals, and grizzlies should be no different.
The provincial government also said that there's been a rise in reports of problematic and dangerous grizzly human and grizzly animal interactions. Some recent conflicts, the province suggests, have been predatory in nature. In 2020, there were 3 attacks, while 2021 recorded 9 attacks by black and grizzly bears. The province said there were 104 attacks from 2000 to 2021. The ministerial order states that authorizations can be issued if a grizzly has been involved in a human-bear conflict situation, or if the bear is located in an area of concern. The bear must not be accompanied by a cub. That brings me to my question of the week for you all. Do you support this new program? Do you think that Albertans should be allowed to hunt problematic grizzlies? Or do you think that we are going to run into an issue of a slippery slope where people are shooting grizzlies that are not problematic and further endangering an already endangered species? Post your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll get to some of those next week. Okay, now finally, moving into what we're watching in the weeks to come, we are back to Calgary, and we are not finished talking about the water crisis just yet, because many businesses have and continue to be impacted by the restrictions. Rebel News pulled together this report this week. It was very well done by my good friend Sid. If you're not familiar with his work, go give him a follow on X. This week, he uncovered that thousands of Albertans have and continue to be put out of work, and that an entire industry could collapse because of Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondik's ongoing water restrictions. Rebel News interviewed Kyle Brost, president of the Canadian Prairie chapter of the Irrigation Association. They represent hundreds of businesses as well as over 1,000 employees, and they've been put out of work for over a month due to Gondik's restrictions. Brost said it's been over 35 days and many irrigation companies have been shut down completely for that entire time. He said that 80% of the industry has been totally shuttered, totaling $40 million in lost revenues. He also said that many of the impacted workers are seasonal and really can't afford to be out of work right now. Take a listen to what else he had to say.
For us as business owners, it's not the revenue, it's the employees. Ultimately, 35 days without a paycheck is not realistic. There's no support for those guys and ladies. And frankly, a lot of times they're the single wage earner in a household. I would say roughly there's over 1,000 people affected by it, because that's in our industry, but this now bleeds into any organization that uses water. So for example, even window washers who use water-fed poles to clean windows, they can't do their work. Landscapers, that's a big industry that's affected.
Okay, everyone, and finally, moving into our weekly comment roundup, when I covered that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau would not be coming to the Calgary Stampede this year, you guys delivered with his comment section. Starting first with user Gary Wagner, he said, quote, "Good, Alberta takes pride in being rat-free." User @Dunn said, quote, "No one in Alberta wants to see his face," as well as in BC, Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, PEI, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Yukon. He's a slow learner. True that. And finally, user @Kim Shenbrenner said, quote, "It's a stampede, not a gay pride parade. Why would he show up?" Absolutely true. I only wish I'd said it myself. Okay, everyone, that's all we have time for today. If you support our work, you can do that over at donate.tnc.news. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to True North so you don't miss any of our content. Friendly reminder to tune into my new Wednesday show, Rachel on the Republic, where I dive deep to all the issues in the American election. Hope that you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next week, and God bless.